Thank you for joining us once again for a spooky ooky month of Halloween scares on Finding Monster Right. Show about finding monsters, right?
Right.
Whether in the King Arthur era or in your own backyard, there's a creature, a critter, that's not neither of those things, it's a man. And that man is named Jack. My name is Adam.
Hey, listen, after we record this episode, do you want to order some Vietnamese food?
You mean like some pho?
Yeah, but if we get pho, I want to get it without paying, and the base has to be a sautéed meat alternative. And I want it served to me by a giant. I want free-fried faux pho.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the bit for the episode, ladies and germs and others.
Reading over these stories, the stories about Jack's tales, I said, all right, who was the person that had the really long fee-fi-fo-fum bits?
Who do you think?
And I'm like, oh, right. Yes, we are exploring the fables related to the character of Jack, who is kind of an everyman hero, right?
He's kind of an everyman, but he's more of a trickster type.
Yeah, there's a certain word for his archetype. Stock character, that's it.
Yeah. He's a trickster and or rebel, according to Wikipedia. I like not picking one of those two. That's very rebellious and tricksy.
Yeah.
Of Wikipedia.
Hero? Is he a hero? Is he a villain? Who knows?
Someone was editing this page and they were like, what would Jack do?
I like how we also referenced pho and stock characters in like the same sentence.
Yeah. Oh, because soup.
Yes.
Very good.
And to you naysayers out there, of course Jack has Halloween roots and vibes. You know, the Jack-o'-lantern, of course. But there are many tales that feature Jack.
You know several of them already, I bet. But if there's one thing that can be said...
You don't know Jack. How to grift heaven and hell.
Absolutely. We're going to teach you how to grift heaven and hell through learning and fablery.
Yep, we're going to explore the adventures of this Cornish hero. So there's in our collections, we've gathered 11 Jack stories.
Mm-hmm.
I have 6 minor Jack stories and like 5 major ones.
And I gave all of my 11 Jack stories equal importance. But let's start with Jack's childhood.
Yes, you may have heard this tale of a boy named Little Jack Horner.
Little Jack Horner. Well, Adam, what's Little Jack Horner about? What kind of dinosaurs is this kid digging up?
Well, he's digging up, is a plum a dinosaur?
Horseradish isn't an instrument either.
No, yeah, so Little Jack Horner, he sat in a corner and he ate a pie. And he stuck his thumb in the pie and he pulled out a plum. And he's like, what a good boy am I.
Adam, you could have just read it. You
you
didn't have to summarize it. It's only 6 lines long.
So we're looking at arranging these stories kind of chronologically.
Yeah.
This one's first on my list for a few reasons. 1, Jack is a little boy.
Mm-hmm.
2, it's Christmas. He's eating a Christmas pie. It's a time of innocence.
Hmm.
This is the beginning of Jack's arc, because not only is a innocent boy, but he's specifically of good alignment.
There you go, yeah. Oh, are we going to wind up with a D&D character sheet for Jack by the end of this?
Well, he gets a bunch of magic stuff at some point.
Oh, yeah,
so it's possible.
We'll talk.
Okay, what are some other stories from Jack's childhood?
I wanted to talk about Jack and Gill.
That's not the letter I know.
No, it's not. The proper name is Jack and Jill, but originally, in the earliest versions of the rhyme, Jill was spelled Gill, and the accompanying woodcut showed 2 boys at the foot of the hill. Jack said trans rights.
All right.
Hell yeah. So Jack and Gill, or no, I'm going to refuse to dead name this person. Jack and Jill went up the hill to fetch a pail of water. Jack fell down and broke his crown, and Jill came tumbling after. And then there's more.
Yeah, I was surprised to learn the story goes on.
Up Jack got, and home did trot as fast as he could caper. Went to bed to mend his head with vinegar and brown paper. Break it down. Now, vinegar and brown paper. Is that the new leather and lace?
It sounds like it. But yeah, no. Then Jill came in, and she did grin to see his paper plaster. Mother vexed did whip her next for causing Jack's disaster.
Which, yeah, no, Adam, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of trans people don't get along with their parents.
I think it was more about the injury that was caused to him. That's probably where a bad relationship blossomed from.
Well,
right?
Here's the thing. Jill's getting blamed for shit that she did not do.
You're right. Jack was kind of fucking around.
He fell down and broke his crown. It could have been any reason. Could have just tripped or hit a branch. Why are these little kids getting water for their mom, who is clearly physically capable of whipping them?
She's definitely physically capable. Which is that's yeah. So I think that the part of the story that I really stuck to was the broke his crown bit.
Okay.
Because before this, we identified Jack as a good aligned little boy, but then he suffered an injury to the head, and he later goes on to be a trickster and a rogue type. And I think this is the kind of origin of that.
Okay. I have a thing for this.
Yeah.
So originally, when I was writing my chronology, which I already did before the episode because I kind of jumped the gun, but I put Jack and Jill first, and then I put Jack be nimble.
Whoa. I have Jack be nimble very late in my story.
Ooh. Really? Because
yes.
Here's my take is, okay, well, let's just read that. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick.
Jack. Oh, yes.
I was already halfway through. These stories are not long, Adam.
No, go ahead.
This is a minor Jack tale. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick, Jack jump over the candlestick. So here's my chronology. And bear with me. So Jack and Jill went up the hill. So Jack and his transgender sister Jill, as I've determined through science, they go up the hill, and Jack trips and falls and has an accident, and Jack's mom blames his sister, and Jack is so guilty about this that he goes to find Liam Neeson, and he just starts training in the mountains.
Oh, you interpret that as a training scene.
Yeah. Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. It's a wish. He's saying this to himself, or Liam Neeson is telling it to him. He's training with Ra's al Ghul. And then Little Jack Horner is the third part of that particular trilogy, because it's like he's completed his training. Like, that's the last thing that Liam Neeson makes him do. It's like, here, stick your finger in this Christmas pie. Because he's not in Nepal because it's England, so he has to go to, like, Christmas Land or wherever, where it's always Christmas. It's a fairy tale. And he just, like, sticks his hand in a thumb, and it's like, what a little good boy you are. You're ready.
Yeah, so I went to our usual well of Wikipedia, and they had a few more things to say about the jumping over a candlestick. Notably that it was, in the past, it's been a method of fortune telling, or a sport. So, jumping over a candlestick is kind of an indication of good fortune. And I think good fortune, good luck, stuff like that, applies to Jack a little later in life. So, and for a couple of the reasons, I put this one a little later. So, we'll bring it up down the line.
I think most of these, I'm biased towards putting the nursery rhymes earlier.
He's often a boy, like a young person in some of these. However, I don't know. Well, what's next on your chronology?
Next on my list is Jack and the Beanstalk.
So yeah, the tale of a boy.
Yeah, he's very boy. I wrote his approximate age as like 12 or 13. I see it as a very like crossing the threshold, coming of age kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a literal threshold in the sense of like
the
climbing.
Beanstalk, yeah.
Yeah. It's very clear to me.
Okay, so I think most know the tale of Jack and the Beanstalk.
Let's go over it quick.
He had a family cow, And
No.
he was walking around with it for some reason. Maybe he was like, he was on like a joyride with a cow. And some guy rolled up, and he's like, "Hey, man, cool cow. You want some beans?"
Hell yeah,
Jack-
I'm so down for beans.
Yeah. Jack, who may be, living with the concussions of a young brain injury, says, "Magic beans, hell yeah."
Magic beans, hell yeah. Did I mention that last week I did actually hit my head on a tree branch and was afraid I had a concussion?
No, you did not. That lines up with
Well, okay. I mean, I was gonna say I'm not sure about your theory, but you know what? It's it checks out.
Yeah, he goes back to his mom, and his mom's like, "What did you do?" And it seems like the same upset mother from the Jack and Jill story.
No sign of Jill. Emancipated pretty early here.
Yeah, she cast the beans out the window. Beanstalk grew overnight because they were magic.
Mm-hmm.
And he traveled up it to a giant giant castle, specifically above the clouds. Right?
Yep. Which, can I say, in D&D 5th edition,
mm-hmm.
there is a magic item called a bag of beans, and you roll 100-sided dice to determine what the outcome of the magic beans are. And, most of them are nothing, and then if you roll, a perfect 100, it grows into a giant beanstalk. That's stupid. Look, I want one thing from this. Okay? Let me have fun. Let me do the thing from the thing. I don't want this 1%.
You're saying that we all know what this. Why are we pretending this isn't from that?
Yeah,
yeah, right. You guys are really covered your they're honest with the genie and the magic ring.
Yeah,
right. They play that straight, but they have to hide the fact that this is a children's story.
Yeah, it's very silly. But anyway, so they find he's in the giant castle.
Yep.
And the giant says...
his famous catchphrase. You dirty rats!
No, Adam, that's not it. That's not it. It's It's his famous catchphrase, "You want to know how I got these scars?"
Say hello to my little friend. You're my little friend.
That one actually tracks. That one actually jacks. Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread. Break it down.
Yeah, I looked up how handy bone bread is.
Oh.
It's not really a thing that happens, and people are pointing to that fact. They're like, look, this story's 5,000 years old. This is probably the oldest Jack story. Besides the tricking a devil, format. So they're like, that could have been anything. Is what was the death? It's like, who cares that this is the translation? That could have been anything down the line. But yeah, he takes some stuff from the giant's castle, including one golden goose.
Yep, a goose that lays golden eggs.
Yep, and he fireman posts down the beanstalk
with a goose in tow.
Yep.
And then on his way down, the giant chases after him, and he chops it down. And then the giant falls to his death, and Jack and his family prosper.
Yeah, I assume you went where I went with this, where a giant has fallen dead, and he's like, I can make a living out of this.
That is, I thought you were going to say parting of the Red Sea. Kind of the same deal.
How so?
Well, when Moses and the Israelites are crossing I guess they're not Israelites at the time, or they are, I'm not sure. But they're crossing the Red Sea, and the Pharaoh decides that God hardened his heart and made him evil again. This is our second episode in a row where I'm going to bash Exodus, by the way. But, so the Pharaoh and his men are chasing after them, and...
It's called, hang on, it's called Exodus.
Exodus.
That's the segment.
Yeah. It's a segment now. And the Pharaoh, the sea closes behind Moses and the Israelites on the Pharaoh and his men and drowns them. So it's kind of the same thing. Like the supernatural means of escape, of magic flight, as Campbell would say, is destroyed and kills the antagonist.
Yeah, I definitely see that. So,
And also, Abraham has a golden goose.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there's a golden calf later, but it doesn't it doesn't, give birth to smaller golden calves. If they did, I would worship that thing.
So, my read of this and how it connects to other stories is basically that Jack gets a thirst for giant blood. He becomes Jack the Giant Killer.
Well, do you think that goes directly after in your chronology?
I believe so, but there's some... you know what? It happens chronologically afterwards.
Yes.
Yes. That was his first giant kill. He later goes on to kill more giants.
Yes. And I have a second. That's not true. We're on number 4 or 5.
Yeah. Well, what do you think occurs after Jack and the Beanstalk?
Next, I say Jack and his comrades.
This one I have before Jack O'Kent. But tell me about Jack and his comrades, because this is one that I could not be bothered to read the paragraph of Wikipedia. I tried, but it's just a bunch of animal names.
Adam, I read it, and it's a bad story. You were right.
Yeah. So how's it kick off?
So it starts off with Jack leaving his mother's house. He's 18. He's a man now. He's a young man. And he tells his mother he will seek his fortune. "Mother, I will seek my fortune," he said. And his mother offers him half a hen and half a cake with her blessing, or the whole of both without. Okay, so either half a hen and half a cake and her blessing, or a whole hen, a whole cake, and nothing.
Which would you take?
I feel as though the whole without. I don't understand the difference.
Yeah, his mom has been pretty mean to him in these other stories. I don't know why he needs her blessing.
Yeah, absolutely.
He got the golden goose without her, like against her wills. So,
all right,
yeah,
so,
give me that whole cake.
Yeah. Okay, so he asks for the halves and is given the whole of both with her blessing. Aw.
Oh, it was a trick question.
See, what I like about this is he learned everything about being a trickster and or rebel from his mom and or mother.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I get that.
So on his way, he meets a donkey in a bog and helps it out. He meets a dog, and the dog has a pot tied to his tail, and a crowd hunting it, and Jack decides that that's stupid and stops that, because it is. And then, while he's eating with the dog and the donkey, a cat shows up, and he helps the cat, and he rescues a cockerel from a fox. The cockerel is referred to in Irish as Cuileach du, which I don't speak Irish, but in English the translation would be black cock. We're going to move on. They go to sleep in the woods. The cockerel crows, claiming to see dawn, and Jack realizes that it's a candle in a house. And basically, they figure out that it's a robber's den. And some animal hijinks ensue, and they basically they go in and they just beat up a bunch of robbers and stuff. And then the captain of the robbery comes back, and they beat him up too, and blah blah blah. So Jack and his animal pals are going to restore the gold to its owner, the Lord of Dunlaven.
Mm-hmm.
And Jack is halted at the door by the porter, and basically through Jack, the porter, and the Lord get into a discussion then, and it ends with the porter saying, "I didn't open the door to the 6 robbers," which is kind of like, I didn't say it was poison.
He admits to it.
Yeah. Well, he accidentally admits to it.
Mm.
And then, so Jack announces that no matter, he has arrived with the stolen gold and silver. And requested supper and lodging after a long ride from the muddy ford. The grateful lord declares he would provide them comfort for the rest of their days, appointing Jack as his steward, brought his mother to live near the castle, and eventually married his lordship's daughter. So, Jack beat the shit out of Robin Hood.
I was gonna say, at the end of the story, Jack achieves level. He hits level 2.
Yeah. What is this
'Cause-
fucking? This is capitalism. I don't like this.
Yeah. So in my lineup, I have the story happening concurrently with the end of Jack the Giant Killer
Really?
because they have the same ending.
They have well, no, they have slightly different endings.
Slightly different. I think in the same way that we've talked about these stories shifting over time, I feel like at once they could have been the same story.
Broad
at least
strokes.
that end part.
Well, I have some connective tissue that I think works differently, but
Are you connecting it to the house that Jack built?
well, a little bit. This is the house that Jack built. That's just a thing about Jack and like some things in his house.
Right, but do you know the thing? Yeah, it's like it's a 12 Days of Christmas kind of style jingle, where it goes through the different. It slowly adds things onto this story of things happening in Jack's house. I do want to say though that I didn't realize this when I was looking at it ahead of time, but a lot of the characters in This Is the House That Jack Built are in Jack and his comrades.
Oh, okay. I have the house that Jack built much later down the list, but really all that is evident is Jack has built a house at some point. That's the only fact, so it could really go anywhere.
I could see that as some of his work as a steward, maybe. Maybe to bring this a little sooner. But yeah, no, these are the characters of the... there's a horse, a hound, and a horn that belong to a farmer.
Okay.
There's a rooster, so there's your cockerel.
Yep.
There's a judge, who may be interpreted as gay, because the judge.
How?
Basically, it's a cause and effect thing. The rooster wakes up the judge, all shaven and shorn, that marries the man, all tattered and torn.
Oh, I ship it. Okay.
Yeah, that man just so happened to have kissed a maiden, all forlorn.
That bi.
Yeah, he could be bi and marry the judge. That's a regular reading of this.
That is okay. Well, let's read the actual line. This is the horse and the hound and the horn that belonged to the farmer sowing his corn, that kept the rooster that crowed in the morn, that woke the judge all shaven and shorn, that married the man all tattered and torn, that kissed the maiden all forlorn, that milked the cow with the crumpled horn, that tossed the dog, that worried the cat, that killed the rat, that ate the malt, that lay in the house that Jack built. Break it down.
To dance with Jack of the Shadows.
Hey.
Yeah, no, it's a real. That's I think that. As you can see, a lot of the animals featured in Jack and His Comrades are in that story.
Yeah, okay.
So the only thing about his house is that he put malt in at one point. So we if we find a better spot for that, we can. But I think all those characters show up there.
Well, the next one I have on my list here is Jack Sprat. Here's the thing. In old-timey times, not everybody had last names. So right. I feel like this has to happen after he marries into nobility, you know?
I think so. That makes sense. Well, Jack Sprat's a very short story.
Yeah. Jack Sprat could eat no fat. His wife could eat no lean. But together, both, they licked the platter clean. Nope, there's no rhythm.
Yep. So yeah, the only things that you have to know is that he has a wife, and he's married at this point, and he doesn't eat fat.
Yep. He's got to stay trim.
Stay trim. So, yes, he's married after this story.
In case his giant killing days come again.
Well,
you know what? He can eat no fat because the fat is too close to the bone. And, like, he has got, like, all this trauma from the giant grinding his bones to make his bread.
That could be the connection. I wanted to... all right, is Jack the Giant Killer next for you?
It is not, but we can talk about Jack the Giant Killer.
Yes, please let's talk about Jack the Giant Killer, because I think a lot of things early in Jack's carear...
yes, okay, so I see you putting this way higher up on your list.
Yeah.
Way earlier in the timeline.
Jack the Giant Killer is the most heroic Jack.
Yeah, I would say so.
He is described as strong, clever, and he traps and kills giants.
A lot of that kind of stuff happens. This is also the one that explicitly says that he's from Cornwall.
Yes, and he also lived during the era of King Arthur.
Yeah, it turns out.
So all this is King Arthur era.
Yeah. But also, during Jack and his comrades, they did mention something about pistols, which that must be a later addition, but also raises some interesting questions about King Arthur.
I also saw that, but they also have castles in that story, right? So it's like...
The Lady of the Lake just, like, handing Arthur a gun.
Give him a Colt 45.
It's like some Shannara Chronicles bullshit.
It is. So, yes. This is during the era of King Arthur, and he goes on some events and stuff like that. He gathers up a whole magic inventory of stuff in his giant killing adventures. It's real D&D.
Well, do we want to start at the very beginning?
Magic items?
Oh, do we want to jump all the way to the magic items? Because there's a lot that happens in this story.
Sure. Why don't you go over it?
Okay, so it starts out with Jack is a young farmer's son. Doesn't say how young, but he is definitely strong and clever, and easily confounds the learned with his penetrating wit.
Hey now.
You're an all-star.
Okay.
We found my Winter Soldier phrase.
You're right.
Okay, so Jack he's at the market one day, basically. And I'm getting a couple of this from Dale Kingsmill's video on the subject of Jack the Giant Killer, which is a very good video, very good channel. Check out Monarch's Factory on YouTube.
Yeah, this is the biggest meat of the stories. So let's eat it like Jack Sprat might.
Yeah. So he's at the market one day, and there's some people talking about this giant called Cormoran, who's eating who's eating people's livestock. And Jack is like, well, oh wow, that's crazy. Hey, if someone had experience with killing giants here and could kill a giant, what would they get? And I'm like, all the treasure, I guess. And then he's like, and I mentioned Dale Kingsmill because I love the way she says this.
I'm gonna go kill that giant, and all I need is a pickaxe, a bugle, and an ordinary household shovel.
And meet me in the mountains. Come on!
Wait, Jack, what's the shovel for? Why do you need a pickaxe? Jack, oh, here it goes. Crossover of the century.
You listen to my other podcast, Keenan and Kel with Adam and Aaron.
I'm an avid Fanta. So,
right.
So Jack, what he does is he digs a big hole in the ground and covers it with some sticks and leaves, and he plays a bugle to wake up the giant. Giant runs out at this asshole playing a bugle on his yard, falls into a pit that's just high enough that his head is sticking out, and then he just kills him with a pickaxe. So tricksy and rebellious.
What a knave. What
a cunning ruse. And so Jack is dubbed Jack the Giant Killer for this feat, and receives not only the giant's wealth, but a sword and a belt to commemorate the event. Very WWE, I feel.
Yeah, very D&D first tier.
Yeah. So, a man-eating giant named Blunderbore, who is also Cormoran's cousin, vows vengeance for his cousin's death and carries Jack off to an enchanted castle. Jack manages to slay Blunderbore and his brother by hanging and stabbing them. He frees 3 ladies held captive in the giant's castle. Now, Adam, you're my cousin, right?
Yes.
I don't know why I asked for confirmation on that. Would you?
No.
If I was murdered by a tricksy trickster, would you avenge my death?
It depends on the method. That's a revengeful method for sure. Trapped in a hole with a pickaxe. If Jack spilled a can of Coke and you slipped on it, and then you just insisted that it's not dangerous and kept slipping on it, and then you did, in an ironic twist of fate, crash into off a cliff, then yeah, I'm like, you know what, Jack, you're okay.
That we need a segment called Plausible Ways the Co-Host Can Die, because that's there are so many, really.
That's the co-host kill.
Ooh, okay. No, that's what it happens if I slip on a can of spilled soda and trip onto a garden tool that slapped me in the face, and I died.
Yeah.
Okay.
While watching a Disney Pixar film. Okay.
We have to stop. All right, so Jack feels like he's done some good work today, but he wants to kill more giants. So he goes to Wales, and he tricks a two-headed Welsh giant into slashing his own belly open. And Dale Kingsmill notes that in her copy of the fairy tale, the author is weirdly anti-Welsh.
Oh no.
Which is like, yep.
You have to be a very particular kind of English to be anti-Welsh.
It's like
I feel like no one else in the world would care.
No, well, the Welsh language is very complicated because it's not very influenced by. It's very Celtic. Celtic, not very Germanic or Romance inspired. But anyway, so he tricks a two-headed Welsh giant into slashing his own belly open, and how he does this is he fills a bunch of. The giant gives him like way too much food to eat. Like he tricks him into doing that, and so Jack is like putting the food into a little sack, and what he does is he sticks the sack under his shirt and slices his shirt and sack open, and all the food spills out. And the giant's like, oh, that's badass, and this guy kills giants, but I'm not going to be intimidated. I'll cut my own stomach open. That'll learn him. And then he dies from that.
Wow. That is equally... so that was the ironic fate that I described earlier. I would not avenge that giant.
No, absolutely not.
No, he brought that on himself.
So, at this point, guess who shows up? Knock, knock. It's King Arthur's son, who I'm just going to call DW, even though that's Arthur's sister.
Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, DW arrives in the story.
Yeah.
And, he's like, oh, man, you're King Arthur. Bro, you're King Arthur's son. I'm going to be your scribe.
Your servant, your squire.
Yeah.
And so,
he's Jack Esquire in this story, technically.
Oh, yeah. Good point.
All right.
But so, Jack's like, hang on, we have to go, the prince left King Arthur's court in Camelot because he heard some story about a beautiful enchanted lady who was serving Lucifer and who was being possessed by demons and needed to be saved. Very paladin.
Dun. Yeah.
Big paladin energy. And so on the way there, Jack's like, okay, I'll help. And we can spend a night. There's this place I know with this three-headed giant that I'm going to trick.
Well, I want to say that I'm curious how things end for him and Lucifer because in Dale's recount, because the Wikipedia one has left me a little baffled in our task. But continue.
Oh, no, it's good.
Yeah.
So the way Jack does this is he walks up to the giant's door and just knocks on it. And the three-headed
Is he going to ding-dong ditch the giant?
No. Well, a little bit, actually. But he's going to knock on the door, and the giant shows up. And he says, hey, it's me, Jack. I'm your cousin. And listen, I just got a tip. I wanted to warn you. King Arthur's son is coming, and he's out killing giants. You gotta hide. And he's like, oh, geez. I mean, thanks for warning me about that. I didn't know that I was a cousin, but where should I hide?
Is he gonna Bugs Bunny him?
Yeah, pretty much.
Is he gonna go, hide in this oven?
Not quite that bad.
Okay.
So what he says is, like, just hide in the basement. And so, just hide in the basement. I'll be here when the sun shows up, and I'll just pretend like this is my castle and nothing's wrong, and he'll go look somewhere else. And the giant's like, yeah, okay, good. And so the three-headed giant, who doesn't have a name, goes and hides in the basement. And, they just spend the night there, like normal. And, Jack notices in the corner of his room an old rusty sword, a really weathered cap, an old tattered cloak, and some beat up shoes. And
And he
when
loots the three-headed giants.
the next day, Jack gets the prince to get out first, and then the giant comes up out of the basement and is like, "Is he gone?" He's like, "Yeah, he is." "Oh, thank God. Cousin, I'm so glad that you've saved me from this. I mean, anything you want in my house, take it. It's yours." And the Jack says, "Okay, I want the sword, the cap, the cloak, and the shoes." And the giant's like, "Oh, man, I really fucked myself." He says fuck in the real story, which I think is wrong. "I really fucked myself here. Those are like the most valuable things I own, but I did say anything, and you did save my life." "Okay, sure." And it turns out they're not just old, crappy stuff. They're a magic Vorpal sword type thing, Snickersnap. It's a cap of knowledge that lets him know everything. It's a cloak of invisibility. And it's shoes of swiftness. It's 7-mile boots that let him traverse 7 miles in a single step.
Wow.
And at this point, the DM is overpowering him.
Yeah, right. He has to nerf him somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that does not happen. Spoilers.
No, yeah. Jack the Giant Killer is a bit of a... He's one of those, plain-faced heroes.
Yeah, absolutely.
He doesn't run into any complexities.
No. So, eventually, Jack and the prince get to this lady that the prince is looking for, this Lucifer lady.
Yep.
And so, I don't remember everything about the story, but I do remember the Lucifer lady and the prince and Jack just kind of have dinner, and the lady is being all, like, flirty with the prince and like all that kind of stuff. And she says, "You know what? I have had so much fun. Let's play a game." And she pulls out a handkerchief and she says, "If you can bring me this handkerchief by tomorrow morning, then I'm yours. But if you can't, I'll kill you." And she tucks it into her top and just retires for the evening. And the prince is like, "Oh no, how are we going to do this?" And Jack puts on his cap of knowledge, and he thinks, and he knows exactly where she's going to put that handkerchief, which, by the way, is a gross accessory.
Yeah.
Okay, so the lady communes with Lucifer that night, and Jack sees it, and she gives the handkerchief to Lucifer, and somehow, I forget how, I think he's using his cloak of invisibility.
Ah.
He takes it from Lucifer and gives it to the prince. Next day, prince hands her the handkerchief. And so next day, the same thing happens, and the lady's kind of fed up this time, and she's like, "Okay, listen, I will let you try and do this exorcism thing, but tomorrow morning, you have to bring me the lips that kissed me last." And she kisses him, and then retires, and then the prince is like, "Oh, this will be easy." And Jack's like, "I'm not so sure." And Jack dons his invisibility clothes again, and he goes to, he watches the lady to see what she does, and she communes with Lucifer again, and she kisses him. And so then, when the lady goes away, Jack takes his magic Vorpal sword and cuts off Lucifer's head.
Ah, so yes, it is what happens on Wikipedia, that he kills Lucifer.
He kills Lucifer. Well, they are on the material plane, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which
right?
means that Lucifer will show back up in hell, according to D&D rules.
Oh, okay. Never mind. That was a plot hole because the devil factors into later stories.
No, that's how hell do.
Yeah, that is how hell do.
So
yeah.
So he shows Lucifer's head to the lady the next day, and all the demons in her are just so freaked out that they bounce.
He exercises him with Lucifer. Oh no, it's our boss's head. Run!
That'd be pretty scary. And the lady is freed of the demons and marries the prince, which, if you ask me, huge downgrade.
Should've stuck with Lucifer.
Jack is rewarded with membership in the Round Table. And then Jack goes on, "I'm gonna be very quick." Jack moves on. He kills a giant named Thunderdell using a trick involving the house's moat and drawbridge. That sounds violent and kind of Tom and Jerry-ish. And then he eventually gets so tired of all this shit that he goes off and he kills the giant Galligantius.
He kills more giants, basically.
He kills
right?
the giant Galligantus, and then that, in like an Avengers Phantom Menace kind of way, kills all the other giants in England.
Yeah, he does that thing where he kills the queen giants, and then the rest of them, all the drones die.
Yes. And he also frees a duke's daughter who is turned into a deer. And then at the court of King Arthur, Jack marries the duke's daughter, and the two are given an estate where they live happily ever after. Or do they?
Yeah, add a question mark on that. So yeah, I interpret. How did you weave in the fact that he has gotten married twice?
There's the notion of there's the story of Jack O'Kent.
Yeah, let's talk about Jack O'Kent real quick here.
Yeah, because this is some of my connective tissue. It's kind of ancillary to the Jack the Giant Killer thing, but I have a thing for this. So Jack O'Kent is a folkloric character, as we've been discussing, who is a farmer that tricks the devil sometimes. And we're saying, of course, the thesis of this is that it's all the same Jack.
Yeah, so this is a devil tricker Jack.
Yeah, and he tricks the devil into several different things.
He's like, all right, devil, I bet you can't make good crops. Here.
And the devil's like, oh, I bet I can, but I want half of the crops.
Okay, what crop do you want, the top half or the bottom half?
The way Wikipedia words it is tops or butts.
Yeah, tops or butts, devil.
And the devil picked tops, which was a paragraph that led me to realize, holy shit, why did I never think of sexualizing the devil before? It's the part in this holy grail of monster fucking.
Yeah, so when he picks tops, Jack cleverly plants turnips underground.
He plants turnips. Remember that one.
Yeah, turnips. Remember this. And so the devil always got his leaves. And devil says, double or nothing. Next year, I want the tops. Double or nothing, next year I want the bottoms. Double or nothing, yes, next year I want butts. And he shows up the next year, and Jack's got like a bunch of wheat who doesn't have anything underground. And Devil's like, shucks.
And then Jack plants corn. Oh no.
Yeah.
Well,
just to rub it in.
And there's also like a lot of other legends about like Jack does things that make different mountains and stuff. He really bunions up a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, there's one story I want to highlight in particular is that he asked the devil to help him build a bridge, promising that the first soul to the devil that crosses it. They build a bridge. Jack tosses a bone over the bridge, and a hungry dog runs across.
Oh my god, is it the same dog?
It is the same dog.
Oh my god, he killed a dog, that fuck.
That's how trickstery he is. He killed a dog with a bone.
He killed his dog friend. Oh my god, Jack needs to die. I hate Jack now.
Yeah, so that's where I connected Jack O'Kent myself. That it's after Jack and his comrades.
Okay, so my order thus far is Jack and Jill, Jack be nimble, a little Jack Horner. Low dexterity, training for higher dexterity. His training is complete. Jack and the Beanstalk, threshold crossing, kills his first giant. Jack and his comrades, leaves his mom's house, hangs out with some animals, narcs on Robin Hood, marries a lord's daughter. He builds a house. He and his wife have dinner. Then I have the Jack O'Kent stories, where he like tricks the devil and stuff, and he's just making life hell for the devil. Pun intended.
So you have the tricking the devil stories before Jack the Giant Killer?
Yeah. He and his wife are farming. They do farming stuff. He works the land for the Lord Dunlaven, whose daughter he married. And then we have Jack the Giant Killer because, and this is my connective tissue here, and that explains why Jack gets married twice. Once to the Lord's daughter, once to the Duke's daughter. Jack's first wife dies, presumably as a part of a revenge ploy on the devil's part for all the trickery. I think the devil killed Jack's wife or tricked her into dying somehow for revenge because he's been made a fool so many times.
Okay.
And so
I see you there.
And so depressed, Jack stays with his mother for a while. And then he hears this story. And he's still young at this point in time, I think. I think he's only like... I think he left his mother's house and married the Lord's daughter at like 18. This is maybe 2 years later. enough time to plant turnips and wheat.
Right.
And so, like, 2 years later, his wife is dead. He's at his mother's house. He goes to the market. He hears about this giant terrorizing Cornwall. And he's like, I need a pickaxe. I know how to do one thing. Like, when we're grieving, we fall back into our old patterns. And he does one thing well, and that's kill giants.
So there's 2 stories left in the kind of the Jack roundup, and they're my last stories, and I believe they're your last stories as well. So really quick, I'd like to go over my order.
Okay.
Because as I said before, I think it starts with Little Jack Horner, good boy.
Yep.
Jack and Jill, breaks his crown, kind of starts to get a little tricky.
Mm-hmm.
Starts to think about things in a little different way. The story of Jack and the Beanstalk happens. And Jack the Giant Killer is like that focal point. That's his main tale. And a lot of the events that happen to him happen after and during Jack the Giant Killer.
Oh, okay.
So I see Jack and his comrades as like an alternate read of the ending of Jack the Giant Killer. Where instead, like, the story about the Duke's daughter and getting an estate from that is a different way of saying the Jack and his comrades story. That way, it's only one marriage just told 2 different ways. He develops a dog friend, and perhaps this castle, this home that they have, the house that Jack built, has all the animal friends from the comrades, and this one wife he has the Jack Sprat stories of of having a wife. That's the one bullet point from that story.
Right.
I also want to say so this is where Jack gets the shoes of swiftness.
Yes.
And that is how Jack be nimble, Jack be quick. Jack jump over the candlestick.
Okay, but how do you jump? They're shoes of swiftness, but they're 7-league boots.
Yeah, so I did not see Jack as quick until he got those boots.
He did get away from that giant.
Right.
Who has a big stride.
So what I think happens in the part of Jack be nimble, by the way, Jack O'Kent happens after Jack and his comrades. Specifically, so Jack be nimble is him starting to improve now that he's kind of killed giants and stuff like that. He's getting on in his years, and he wants to. He's hoping for, and I saw it not as his wife dying, but perhaps like her like leaving him.
I definitely said something similar. I think like this is a marriage built on I rescued you when you were a deer.
Right.
So I think that like at that point, Jack's marriage ends possibly with the death of his second wife is what I've written down here, but maybe not. And he turns to alcoholism, and I think he just kind of starts wasting away, and his knighthood is seemingly revoked. And as I remember from the movie Excalibur, a lot of bad shit happens to Arthur's knights on the Grail quest.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's what happened, is they sent Jack out on the Grail quest, and, like, his wife died, and he just kind of... It's a very, like, real... Like, instead of, like, falling into an enchanted well or whatever the fuck happens, like, having to kill a little boy on a horse or something. Yeah, right. He just, like, he turns into an alcoholic, and the devil shows up again.
Yeah, I saw that as, I interpreted Jack be nimble as Jack using his kind of magic items, his shoes of swiftness, to try and trick fortune itself.
Oh, okay.
Because jumping over a candle is a sign of good fortune. He's trying to trick the fortune-telling with supernatural means.
Interesting. That is very much his milieu.
And that is what kind of starts to summon the devil to come and trouble him.
Honestly, I feel like the devil is already pretty mad at him. He did behead him most recently.
Yeah, so...
He cut off his head, and he did the trick with the turnips.
That's specifically why, that's in his devil relationship, that's where it starts. I see Jack O'Kent as stuff that happens shortly afterwards, the story that we're about to get to, Stingy Jack, Jack-o'-lantern.
Stingy Jack.
Stingy, not stingy.
He turns into a bee man.
Of all the stories that happen, that's very plausible. He did climb into the clouds.
Okay, fair. Now, 55 minutes in, we're going to talk about why this is about Halloween.
He disobeyed all known laws of aviation.
Okay, we got to talk about why the fuck this is a Halloween episode, Adam.
Yeah, yes, okay. So I just want to say that I see Jacko Kent things that are happening to stingy Jack.
Mhm.
He it's several tales of him tricking the devil in different ways. And what are the two ways that happen in the Jack the Drunk stories?
So in the story of Stingy Jack in the Jack O' Lantern, hold on, I gotta find the right.
There's several titles to it. Including,
There we go. The article on Wikipedia will be under Stingy Jack, which is not as cool a name.
Jack the Smith, Drunk Jack, Flaky Jack, Jack of the Lantern, or in a weird, truncation, Jack O' Lantern.
Yes. So
he's a drunk. He's a drunk and a trick.
Mm-hmm.
He's a real Jack Sparrow.
Yep. Very, very Jack Sparrow. It might be the same one. Who knows at this point? I've lost the plot.
Satan comes to bother him, right?
Yeah, he's heard stories about how much of a bastard this Jack guy is, and he jumps up on a hickory stump like, "Boy, let me tell you what."
Yeah, and he's pretty much just he's straight up like coming to take him to hell, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, yeah, he's like, I'm going to Jesus you to hell, body and soul, everything's going.
Well, right, because that's the part that's unrealistic. But so Jack is walking along on a cobblestone path, and he finds a body, a dead body, and he's like, well, maybe the body's got coins. I don't know. I used to have a goose. And then he starts rummaging through the pockets, and the body just sits up with this big, weird smile on its face. And he's just like, "Hello, Jack. Remember the time you said I was butts?" And then
I'm gonna make you butts and bring you to the underworld.
Ooh, buy me a drink first. I bet you didn't know this, Lucifer, but I'm a fiddle player too. Sorry, I'm flirting with an imaginary personification of the devil. Proceed.
That's literally what Jack says. He says, "Buy me a drink first."
He does. Damn it! Why did I mess that up so bad?
He says, "Yeah, okay, you can take me to hell, but let's get a couple here. When was the last time you had a drink in the material plane?"
And then Satan's like, "Yeah, okay, pretty good last request, I guess. Let's get wasted." And he goes to the pub, and he's like, and then, oh my god, and then he just kicked me out just because I said I didn't want to hang out with people because they seem gross.
Yeah, he gets Satan white girl wasted.
Absolutely. The only way Satan can't get wasted.
And he says to, all right.
The bartender
Satan,
says, like, "Hey, guys, pay up.
Yeah.
Like, you're cut off. I need you to pay up the tab."
Yeah, the tab amounts to 1 silver piece.
Mm-hmm. And Satan's like, "Oh, okay, well, Jack, I mean, you're the one who's dying, so, like, you pay." Jack's like,
You already checked my body, I got nothing on me.
Right, yeah. Jack's like, "Okay, I don't have anything, but you know what? You're the devil. Just turn into a silver coin, and then I'll just pay the bartender with that, and then you can bounce, and then we can go." Satan's like, "Yeah, okay." And he is impressed upon by Jack's unyielding, nefarious tactics. Okay, Wikipedia, chill.
I think Wikipedia is the one that's crushed on the devil.
Oh, maybe.
But yeah, no, he metamorphosizes into a single silver piece. And Jack goes, "Cool, I'll pay my tab anyway," and puts it in his pocket.
Which also has a bunch of crucifixes, like he does. Maybe he robbed a church.
Yeah, he's got a crucifix in there, which prevents the devil from turning back to his previous form.
And so then we've got a Smith and the Devil thing, as we learned in the Rumpelstiltskin episode.
Yes, that classic archetype of how the devil's been trapped. And he makes the deal with the devil for 10 more years on Earth.
Yep, and then he lets the devil go, and then 10 years later, to the day on Samhain, or however you pronounce that, I think there's a better way to say it, but the devil jumps up on a hickory stump, and he's like, "Listen, motherfucker."
Yeah. I'm here to collect.
Jack is like, "Oof, boy, would love to go to hell, but, like, can I have just 1 apple?" And then Satan's like, "Fucking okay, sure, fine." And he goes up to climb a tree.
Satan's like, "That's my favorite thing, to give people apples." How did you know?
How did you know I love apples so much?
How did you love my... Right. So he slithers up the tree to yank an apple off, and then when he comes to climb down,
Jack surrounded the base with crucifixes, or the story I always heard was he cuts a cross into the tree, like Zorro.
Yeah.
Like a drunk Zorro that can't do it right.
Mm-hmm. And as you know, apple trees grow straight up into the air with no branches.
And also, as you know, Satan cannot fly or teleport or anything like that.
He's got no jumps.
He's got no jumps. So Satan's like, okay, listen, you gotta let me go again. And then Jack's like, yeah, okay, but this time I don't want to go to hell at all. Don't ever let me go to hell. And Satan's like, all right, sure, fine, I promise. I promise. Jack, listen to me. I promise. Okay? Love you, sweetie. Bye-bye. That's my tone that I'm doing now.
Yeah, so he, the devil bounces and doesn't trouble Jack no more.
No.
After all those encounters they had with the crops and the bridge.
Absolutely. And the lady and the girlfriend.
Throwing stones. Yeah, that's where their friendship ends.
Jack, steal your girl, Sprat. So Jack dies eventually because he's a person. And he goes up to heaven and St. Peter's like, dude, fuck you. You killed a dog.
He's like, dude, you know how many... That giant lived here, man.
Yeah.
He was my neighbor. What did you do?
That giant was God. You actually just killed him. Okay? Shit's been fucked. The devil's running around. He's slithering up trees.
Yeah, get out of here. Be gone, Satan.
Yeah.
And say hi to Satan for me.
Yeah.
So.
Be gone. Yeah. Jack, I'm not going to say thought. You know why? Because if I say be gone, thought, I will disappear into the fifth dimension.
So, Jack has... Then he's like, well, I don't like hanging out. This is kind of lame. I guess I'll go to hell.
Yeah, he doesn't want to just hang out in the void of, like, the chill of outer space or wherever.
Yeah, so he goes down to hell, and Satan's like,
It's like, Jack, I promised.
Yeah, right.
I should voice the devil. This is good. This is good shit. But, so he's like, and Jack's like, oh, well you're just gonna let me wander around in the void? Come on. Man, listen.
Yeah.
Remember when you turned into a coin? Satan? Sadie, if I may?
Yeah. And Satan says, here, and he tosses Jack a turnip and says, your butts.
God.
So, yeah.
And he gives Jack an ember, a coal lit from the fires of hell, marking him as a denizen of the netherworld. And then from that day on until eternity's end, Jack is doomed to roam the world between the planes of good and evil, with only an ember inside a hollowed-out turnip to light his way. And also, maybe his head got chopped off and replaced with a pumpkin because we don't have turnips in America. But I like that because that also ties it back to the time when he cut the devil's head off.
Oh, yeah, that's very... You kind of loop that together, right? There is a final Jack story, though. A denouement after his encounter after his Satan stories.
Yeah. What's Jack doing now? He's it's pretty cold out in the void.
Yeah. He has developed ice powers.
He's developed ice powers and become Jack Frost.
Yeah. He starts nipping at noses and other features.
Oh, right, I forgot. There's a part in Jack the Giant Killer where he cuts off a giant's nose.
Ah.
Aha.
So, cutting off one nose, nipping at noses later.
Yeah, there's a connection there. And it's also, like, that's kind of pervy, right? That seems like Jack's MO.
Yeah.
He's a very heteronormative trickster, which I do not like.
So, yeah, as Jack Frost, he leaves fern patterns on frosted windows, and he has something that I thought was another tie back to Jack and the Giant Killer. He's got some marvelous pigments. He has found in his later on in life journeys a magic item in the shape of this magic paint colors, which he can uses to change the color of leaves.
Oh, is that right? Interesting.
Yes. So
there you go.
It's not one of his four specifically, but perhaps. But yeah, he collects magic items when he's younger. So I think in his kind of phantom phase, he does the same thing.
I feel like at that moment where he starts getting, like, washed up and his knighthood gets revoked, he's, like, selling off those magic items for booze money.
Absolutely. I did... It's a little off topic, but I have a final note here about Jack Frost. Is that he goes by other names in different cultures.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in Russia, he's known as Grandfather Frost.
He's also called Death Moroz, I think.
Ah, yes.
Well, no, that's what Death Moroz means, is Grandfather Frost.
Let's see. He's got... There's a story in the Arctic regions. He's known as Old Zero.
Yes, this is something that a writer who was quoted on Wikipedia named Jacob Abbott, I believe, said the Hindus derive the name of the Hindu Kush from the tradition that a giant used to live there in wait to kill all the Hindus who passed that way. Kesh means kill. This giant was probably the same who we in the Arctic regions used to call Old Zero, better known in England as Jack Frost. The horrors of the snow-covered waste probably gave rise to the tradition. Old Zero.
And I like that he is, now embodied the giant killing. He has killed enough giants that he is seen as a giant to some.
Yeah.
He's the last remnants of that era. And that also lines up with some of the Jack O'Kent stories where he is, larger than life in a Paul Bunyan way.
Oh yeah, very true. Very true. So, I bet Jack and Paul Bunyan would not get along.
Paul Bunyan would trick him, and he would probably fall for it.
No, well, here's the thing. Paul Bunyan would think of chopping down that beanstalk right out the gate. That'd be the first thing he would think of.
Yeah, well, actually, this is a better fight than you might think, because as soon as he goes to chop that beanstalk, a giant axe falls from the sky to, stop him.
And oh my god, that's badass. I love that.
Yeah, so they'd have a real axe off. But yeah, no, that's those are the tales of Jack.
Those are the tales of Jack, and oh my god, we're at 1:07. I thought this was going to have to be a two-parter. I was so worried.
One whole minute, 7 seconds.
I'm sorry, 1 hour, 7 minutes. That I fucked that up. I've been
worried. Me, I never misspeak.
I've been there. You go. I'm all hopped up on some Indian chai tea because we are reading a English or a British, I guess, fairy tale because there's some Welsh in there, and I thought I would appropriate some Indian culture. That's right. It's 2 episodes in a row we're talking about the British Raj.
So hopefully you've learned a few things about Jack, and you now know Jack.
But you don't know how to grift heaven and hell. This is going to hurt every bone in my atheist body, but I guess you don't.
Yeah, you know how not to grift heaven and hell.
You have a negative example.
Yeah, don't do what Jack did.
Don't be like Jack. Bum, bum.
So let's take Jack and his many adventures to their final rating place, where we give him a score.
Yep, sounds fair.
Yeah, I think Jack is a wonderful folklore character, a monster in a very mortal sense, sort of.
Until the end. I think the point where he's the Jack-o'-lantern, which is also sometimes kind of conflated with the Headless Horseman.
Right, and Jack Frost in a way, he's a phantom, a giant monster called Old Zero to some.
Gonna catch 'em all because he's Jack Frost. Well, also, the Pumpkinhead version of Jack-o'-lantern, I feel like that's more of a monster. And even the one that's, wandering the void, that's kind of a spooky type thing.
Yeah, it's very spooky. I'm gonna give him, personally, a 7 out of 10.
That's very good. Well, I agree with that. I think this story that we've kind of accumulated here, whether we go with your chronology, which is kind of bits and pieces assembled into one coherent story, or me, where I just take all the stories and glue them together back to back.
Mm-hmm.
I think both of those are pretty valid, both of those are good, and both of those make for a really great, complete story that kind of tells this story about, this folk hero's interaction with the supernatural, and kind of tells a very Excalibur-esque, like we were talking about, story of the pagan tradition of giants and stuff being kind of superseded by Christianity. I'm also...
there's a lot of Christianity images, such as King Arthur, as well as the crucifixes as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely it's a neat through line.
Yeah, and I am gonna give Jack as a character, as a story, I'll go with an 8 out of 10, but I also want to give the other monster sort of this story a rating.
Satan?
Yes.
Oh man, he's got lots of trick. Well, no, I don't think this is a good Satan.
I think this
Call me crazy.
Well, okay,
But-
so the devil is all about, taking things that God has and perverting them, right?
Yeah.
And God's big number is 3.
Mm-hmm.
And what's 3 of 3 is 9. And now the devil appears in 3 stories. He appears in Jack the Giant Killer, Total Clown Shoes. He appears in Jack O'Kent and eventually tricks Jack's first wife into dying somehow, we think, maybe. And then in Stingy Jack and Jack O'Lantern / whatever it's called, he does come out on top in the end. So that's 2 out of 3 stories. 3 and 3 is 9. Say it.
2 out of 3, so you're gonna give him like a 6.66.
No, I'm going to give him 6 out of 9.
Oh. Wow, okay. Yeah, 6 out of 9. I'll give him a 6.66. And he gets the last laugh, which is very devil of him. I'm glad I got the upper hand after becoming Clown Shoes.
You really
Yeah.
did get pretty clown shoes there.
All right. Join us next week when we talk about something that's really scary that outside of our world.
Join us next time when we talk about probably not having sex with the devil, but maybe that. It's a real coin flip with me. And I will flip that coin.
Hey.
Hey, that was gross. I hate myself.